agreement's everything, right? Sure. So how can two walk together unless they agree? So if she's not in complete agreement, then I'll wait.
If you didn't like garlic or I didn't like garlic, wouldn't it be a deal breaker? Yeah, I don't think we'd be married right now.
As Emerald used to say, I don't know where you get your chicken wings from, but where I get mine from, they don't come seasoned. And so next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna do our apricot glazed sausage. And so you want to slice this down. You can slice it either in rounds or you can slice it on an angle. Now, the apricot glazed sausage, I'm telling you, is a absolute showstopper. You're not worried whether I'm coming or not. You're worried about whether or not we're bringing this. This is a total of 2 Polish kielbasa sausages. This one is pork. To me, it tastes the best with the pork, but we have found some turkey kielbasa that's actually not that bad. So we do it with the turkey, but we're gonna do the pork and the turkey today, just to show you the 2. But our preference is the turkey, but we're gonna make this one here. I don't know where you get your kielbasa from, but where we get ours from, they don't come seasoned. And so you wanna take house seasoning and salt. I use kosher salt. If you notice when you drop kosher salt, you can see it very easily. You can actually gauge how much salt you're putting in. No better cooking utensils than your actual hands. Gonna get in there.
And you don't want to skip that step of adding the seasoning, because if you just do the sausage and then the sauce, it tastes like it's missing something. And so the seasoning really does add that extra added flavor.
And you want to do the same thing with your turkey sausage. Remember, this is already cooked, so there's really not a big issue with getting in there with your hands. Okay, so we're gonna take and set up 2 trays with silpats on them because we don't want to mix the pork and the turkey, because obviously, since we haven't eaten pork in a long time, pork would mess my stomach up if we put these on the same tray. And so we'll take the pork sausage and just lay them out. Make sure your oven is preheated to broil, and it's usually about 500. And you want to just spread these out. You want to do the same thing with your turkey. And you want to lay these out. And then what you do is you place them into your oven. You're going to do 5 minutes on top, 5 minutes on the bottom, switch them, 5 minutes on top, 5 minutes on the bottom, until they start to get a nice char on top of them. And then as they start to char, burning is good. You don't want them completely burnt. You don't want them, black like under the bed, but you want them burnt and charred so that you get the nice crispiness on them. And then we will pull those out and we'll prepare our jam to put on top, and then we'll put them back in again. All right, so what we want to do, if you notice in here, you're starting to get some caramelization on the top. So we want to switch, bring these up to the top, and put these on the bottom. We're going to go for another about 5 minutes or so. While we're waiting on that, we're going to get started on our glaze. We want pineapple preserves, and I usually use about half a jar. Then we have apricot preserves, and we want to use half a jar of that. What you're going to do, a little bit of salt, and you're going to take and put this into the microwave for about 30 seconds, and that will kind of soften up just a little bit, and then you stir it and mix it together. The reason why we put a little bit of salt in here is because anything that's very, very sweet, when you put salt in it, it accentuates the sweetness. It makes it even sweeter.
How was it being a sheep of pastors and turning into his wife? How does that one go?
I would say that it was definitely a transition. I think particularly for me being, sheep, quote unquote, and then going into ministry, but then also having to interact with people that, that were in the church. And so, we were all sheeps, and now I'm pastor's wife. So I think the biggest transition for me was more so how to now interact with people that, I don't want to say on the same level, because we're on the same level, but now I am, the pastor's wife. And so I think that was probably the biggest transition for me, is to learn, okay, what does it mean to, quote unquote, be a first lady? What does that look like? How do I interact? And kind of what he was touching on and talking about in terms of how am I supposed to now act, really?
What we're doing here is mixing up and mixing it together until it's just well incorporated. That simple.
Looks so good.
For you, how was it when you found out that you wanted to be in a relationship with Pastor Shayna?
I wasn't sure, to be honest with you. First thing I did was I talked to my spiritual father. He had already shared some things with me probably about 12 years prior to her anyway. So for me, it was really checking with God on multiple occasions, making sure that I had heard correctly, and that I knew that I was taking the right steps with him. And so that was more, for me, that was more making sure that God was in it, that he was moving, and that this was, the choice was correct. Because I knew that our future depended on it. A lot of people don't realize when it comes to relationships, who you are yoked with will change the trajectory and the course of your future. And I don't care what anybody says. People think, well, it doesn't matter. It matters. Yeah. Next to choosing Jesus as your Lord and Savior and following Christ, it is the second most important decision you will ever make as to who you yoke yourself up with. Because that person can either take you up and ascending into the plan of God, or they can shipwreck you and pull you down into the middle of nothing.
Not just because you're a pastor, that goes for anybody looking to be in a relationship. And these are things and topics that we hit on in our Big Day series that we actually have coming up in February at our church, Stonepoint Community Church, where we touch on these things and we talk about relationships and how do you interact with your family and your friends and that type of thing. So those are definitely hot topics that people always want to know about that we hit on in our relationship series that's coming up February 2019.
So now if you notice, they've got like a slight char on the top. Now's the time to get your glaze. I want to pour this on top. Once you get your glaze on top, just zhuzh them around. Make sure they're kind of tossed in the glaze, right? And then spread them back out. This is where you have to pay attention because this is very sweet. It has a lot of sugar in it and it burns very, very quickly. When you put this into the oven, you want to pay very close attention because it will start to burn and char very, very quickly. Now that that's done, we're going back into the oven. And I would do this in 5-minute increments. All right, so if you notice, you'll see how the charred bits on top, right there. This one is actually done. I'm gonna put turkey ones back up on top. Let those go for about another 5 minutes or so, and then we are good to go.
So in your book, the chapter called Too Much Junk in the Trunk, there's a part in there that talks about how coming out of a marriage, going into a second marriage, your success rate is lowered as far as the relationship's gonna last. How do you combat that? Like, how do you get away from the percentage rate?
Going to your second marriage gets lower, and then going to your third marriage is even lower. And then, it literally continues to decline, which shows us that practice doesn't make perfect. And so you have to make sure that you've healed from the things that you've gone through, and that before you go into another relationship, that you don't take the same luggage and baggage with you that came out of the previous relationship. When it comes to relationships, 1 + 1 does not equal 2. 1 + 1 is still 1. And so if you got half a person getting in a relationship with another half of a person, you got half, and it's not gonna work. And so people have to be whole before they try to get into a relationship. So now we're at a point where the sausage is ready to plate. What we will do is we just take and see all those burnt ones. That's
for sure. Don't you guys be fighting over the burnt ones.
And then you'll take the extra sauce and pour some of that into a ramekin. And then you got your...
And the more sauce, the better, okay? So I always scoop up all the sauce. So good.
And then I'll let you dip right into the sauce. See what you guys think.
Thank you, Lord.
Ready?
Let's go.
1, 2, 3.
Oh man.
I take it it's good.
You like it? So there you have it. Your apricot and pineapple glazed sausage.
There you go.
And there it is. What you can do is take some of your garlic. Here's like a at the table quick tip. Take your cloves of garlic and you can drop them into a bowl, metal bowl. If you have a lid that fits perfectly on top, if you don't, you can take another bowl, place it on top. If you look in here, you can see they're starting to come out, where the skins are actually separating from the garlic. So they're starting to break open. And that's an easy way to get your garlic peeled. We are starting, it's called Elephant in the Bedroom, the Playbook. We've been doing this series, I don't know, for 5-6 years easily. And every year we tackle different subjects, things that everybody knows but nobody wants to talk about. Stuff that the church has been curiously silent about, some of the very tough issues concerning sex, sexuality, marriage, relationships. If you do not have a church and you're looking for a church, come spend some time with us. I think you'll be blessed by this series. It gets pretty deep and we get pretty real about it. But I mean, you know, like it's in this day and time we're in, don't you think people need to, they need to hear truth?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally
And they need to know
understand.
God's way of dealing with things, because God does have a specific way of handling every situation in our lives.
And they can get our book on the website as well.
That's right.
If they want to order the book and
You
read
can go
it.
to theelephantinthebedroom.org and you can pick up your own copy of the book. You can even select, if you want me to sign it, you can select in there as an option to sign it, and I will be more than happy to do that for you.
Well, come see us on February 10th.
All right, next up we have our deviled eggs. On the top of my deviled eggs, I always put a kind of a candied, crispy bacon. There's a huge debate whether or not turkey can be called bacon or not. We don't eat pork or beef, so turkey bacon is what it is. One of the things I love about cooking is the fact that when you're in your own kitchen, you do what you want. What I do is I cut them into thin strips like that, chop them up into very bite-sized pieces. Always when you chop, curve your fingers in, use your knuckle as a guide. When you hold your fingers out, you put yourself at risk.
We really love to entertain. We love to be with people, to fellowship. So it's not so much about the game for me per se, whether it's basketball or football or whatever it is, but for me it's about good food, good company, fellowshipping with your friends, your family, that type of thing. And so for me, I don't really care what game is on as long as we have good food. So I'm super excited about this episode to share some of the things that we love to eat with you guys, so then you can then share it with your friends and family.
Do you have your own like girl time, or do you set time aside for you? And how do you find the time for that? What does that look like?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. It's difficult at times with being a new mom and being a wife, and then ministry and all of our other businesses that we're involved in, and then just life coming at you really fast and having to figure out, how do I manage it all? So for me, it's about really being intentional about time management is huge, to really set time. Like I have a calendar and everything goes on my calendar, even when we have parties, or I'm gonna go spend time with my mom or my aunt, or I'm gonna take my daughter out. Everything goes on the calendar.
Everything in your life should be on the calendar. And if it's not on the calendar, it don't get done.
Absolutely.
And there's a challenge with family, because family doesn't want to be on a calendar.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, you know, time is the only thing you can't buy.
Right. When you put it on your calendar, it's like you're committed to it.
Why don't we put these eggs in?
Sure,
So
I
we
can do that. So we're gonna do a dozen eggs.
Yes.
For our deviled eggs.
Yes.
Sweet. We're going to get all of our eggs carefully into the pot. And the way that I do eggs is the water doesn't even have to really be boiling. All you have to do is get the water on, put your eggs in, and then set your timer for about 30 minutes. The more eggs you boil, the longer you have to boil it for. So if you're just doing 6, maybe it's 20 minutes. Since we're doing 12, we're gonna do it for about 30 minutes, and that should give us the perfect hard boiled egg where your yolk is not runny and it's just perfectly ready for deviled eggs.
The eggs will come up to temperature with the water, which means they will boil slower, which means they will set better. I'm kind of a slight nerd because I have a temperature gun. And so I always look at the temperature with this gun to see where we are. And what you want to do is put just a little bit of oil. If you're using pork bacon, you don't really have to do the oil part. And all you're looking to do is to kind of get a little bit of browning on there. And as you'll start to see, you'll get a little bit of crispiness. And if you see how crispy that's gotten, next thing you want to do is your brown sugar. About 1/4 cup of brown sugar. And what will happen is the heat, it'll start to melt and it'll kind of turn into a caramel.
How do you manage, carrying the vision and then trying to get across to your family without getting frustrated, or like basically knowing the end of something and trying to get it across to your family without, getting frustrated or struggling with it? How do you make it a smoother process?
So to answer your question, if you are the leader of the home, you're going to have a vision that sometimes not everybody in the home is going to completely understand or see. And again, it's not their job to see it, it's your job to see it. Vision is the end. Goals and steps are the stages in between. You don't have to cast the whole vision. What you have to do is cast the steps and the stages. Now see how you're getting this dark brown caramelization going? You pour it onto a sill pat, which is a silicone pad. Pay attention because it happens real fast. And then you want to spread it out, and then you want to let this cool down. When it cools down, it's going to turn into kind of like bacon brittle. And so this will take about 15 to 20 minutes to cool down.
So guys, our eggs are finally done. I'm just taking them out of the hot water. What I'm doing is I'm just cracking them on the side of our sink, and you just want the shell to be cracked, and then you throw it right into an ice bath.
What will happen is the water will seep in under the skin, and it'll cause the skin to actually separate from the egg.
There you go.
Here we have our bacon brittle that has been set up. It's been sitting out. If you want it to go a little faster, you can even put it in the freezer, and once it sets, you can tell how hard it is. And so what you want to do is start to just break through it. And like I said, it's literally just like brittle. Want to taste that?
How's I get it all?
It's all good. Shane is not carrying it. So I have a question for you, Pastor. With you being in ministry, how does your day look like from, start to finish, just an ordinary weekly day? Because I feel like a lot of people are always interested in how you structure your day.
I don't know that there ever really is any set way that my day is set up. I can tell you that I'm up at usually between 4 and 4:30ish every day. That's where I do my study time, my devotional time. I pray and I kind of get settled in for the day. And then from there, it just depends on what's happening. I'll do sermon prep, and then I have other businesses as well. So there's other things that I have to kind of make sure are on track and going the way they need to go. I have come to the conclusion here lately that naps are wonderful.
Okay.
So we try to figure out a way to work in a nap somewhere in there so I can have a longer extended day, because when you're up at 4, the rest of the day can become really long. But you want to take your bacon pieces, and like I said, it's candied, and you just want to set that to the side so that when we finish our deviled eggs, we're going to sprinkle that on top. And so what you want to do, I've already cut most of them, but I just want to show you how you do that. You just slice down the middle, take your yolk, pop it out. Pretty quick and simple. And so we're cutting up about 2 tablespoons of dill, and you want it very finely chopped, so you run your knife through it. I think it's also worth to note that our Wood Kings cutting board, check out Wood Kings on Facebook, Wood Kings. See this cutting board, it's got its personalized, it's made out of beautiful wood. I love this cutting board. It's one of the best ones I've ever owned. And so I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out, because they're good people and they will take care of you. Tell them Pastor Gene told you to talk to them. And I promise you, you will be very impressed with your board.
What did it look like as far as before marriage, temptation-wise for you guys? How did you handle it, and how did you keep that in mind, where it's if you waited longer, if you kept that weight, it was gonna be better?
I wanted to make sure that she was the right one. And so we went to my spiritual father. He had a meeting with Dr. Ed Dufresne, And so we went to that meeting together, but we stayed at Reverend Ricky's house. She stayed upstairs, I stayed downstairs. When you do things like that, you create a certain level of accountability.
We did that and that worked really well, and so we would just do things where we would be around other people. And like he said, that whole 5-year plan, I was like, for 2 seconds I thought it, and then God was like, no, we're not doing that. That makes no sense. And so, you know, when you know that that person is the one, it shouldn't be a long, drawn out process.
Yeah.
And then you can avoid putting yourself in situations where it's like, okay, I'm burning, you know what I mean? So you just get her done. If she's the one and he's the one, then get her done.
So I've got 3/4 of a cup of mayonnaise, and I've got about a capful of Worcestershire sauce, or as my grandmother would call it, Worcestershire sauce. And we want to put some relish, about maybe about a tablespoon or so. Recipes will be on our website. So if you go to geneherndon.com or you go to inhimpotential.org, it'll take you to the same place and you can sign up and you'll get the exact recipes. So when you mix this all in, you just want to stir it up. Here's the secret sauce on the deviled eggs. Champagne vinegar, a teaspoon of champagne vinegar. Gives it a certain thing about it. So what you want to do is mix it up. Make sure it's really well incorporated. What I do is I take a plastic bag, turn it inside out, just like this. At this point, if you want to make this ahead of time, this would be a great time to put this in the refrigerator. Wrap those up, put those in the refrigerator, and let them sit. This only gets better and better with time. So you want to turn the bag inside out and then seal it. Grab it by the corner. Cut your corner off. Apply pressure. And you go around. I always go in and then up. Drop some of your bacon crumbles on top. No deviled egg is complete without
Classic paprika.
Paprika, which adds a smokiness. One and two. Tell me what you think.
The bacon makes a huge difference.
Oh yeah.
Big time, yeah.
It's super good.
Like it?
It's really good, yeah.
You can kind of taste the bacon, sweet, got the savory from the vinegar, slight touch of the acid, the mustard's in there, crunchiness.
Yeah, I like the crunchiness.
Kind of.
It just adds to, different textures versus it all just being all mushy.
Awesome. We're super grateful to have you here with us at the table with the Herndons. We have enjoyed cooking for you, sharing our family recipes from our house to yours. We would love to hear your feedback. Place your comments. If you have questions and you would like to have us answer those questions in our next episodes, you can actually place your questions and or comments in the comment section below, and we will do our best to make sure that we respond to those and try to answer any questions that you may have. We also want to make sure you know that if you don't have a home church, Stonepoint Community Church, located at 4445 West Olive, Suite 151, we are a home for you. We would love to have you, love to have you fellowship with us. And so
if you guys would like to purchase our book, The Elephant in the Bedroom, you can go to our website, www.theelephantinthebedroom.org, and purchase your book. Buy 10 copies, give them to all your friends and family. It'll be a blessing to you.
We'd like to thank our special guests, the greats, Candace and Chase, and they are so awesome. We're glad to have them here with us to break bread with us, fellowship. We sure enjoyed their company, and we loved having you guys here with us as well. So we will see you soon. God bless you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. What we have now is we have our wings, and they've been soaking in the buttermilk.
What would you guys say is kind of the glue to your marriage?